afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar for our friends and partners at the Academy of Medicine of Cincinnati. Topic today, prepare now for Windows 7 end of life. This is important information for all medical offices. Next January, Microsoft support for Windows 7 goes away. Purpose of this webinar is to identify exactly what does that mean, what are our choices, what do we need to be doing in advance of next January. So this is part of an 8-part series that the Academy has sponsored, and PBSI is providing at no cost for members of the Academy. And the content has been different for each one of these. We'll provide recordings to everyone who's registered for any of the sessions. We've talked about security essentials in healthcare, email security, file encryption, Dragon Medical password management, really important topic. How to find unprotected PHI. Today, our topic is preparing for Windows 7 end of life. And we'll have one final session to evaluate, help people understand how do we know if our security is working. So today, Windows 7 end of life. Windows 7 end of life has been announced for next January. Agenda today is very straightforward. There are 4 different choices for any of us who continue to employ Windows 7 PCs or laptops. We'll talk about Windows 10. What is the truth about Windows 10 as far as is it great, is it terrible, where is it? What are some licensing options you have? We'll provide some setup recommendations. This is a bonus, really. We've done a lot of work to know how to set up a Windows 10 PC so that it's clean and simple and fast. And we'll cover some of those recommendations. And that's the entire summary of what we'll do today. So I want to thank the many of you who have been longtime PBSI clients. We serve hundreds of providers in the greater Cincinnati area and have specialized in healthcare for over 30 years. In addition, the Academy of Medicine has been a long-term client of PBSI, and we've worked together to try and help promote education and inexpensive technology for local practices. The most important thing I could say about PBSI is that 75% of our staff have been with us for 10 years or more, and I know what a fantastic thing it is as CEO to be able to understand that when clients call us for support, they get great experience, and that helps clients. So our main focus is IT security, and it's from the work that we've done over these years that we continue to learn and that we present knowledge in a forum like this. Okay, Windows 7. It's a fine operating system. Microsoft and no one else is saying it's not. There are security issues. That's the main thing that is behind the replacement of Windows 7, but it was not widely publicized. Microsoft ended mainstream support in January of 2015 for Windows 7. Seems like just yesterday. And well before now, they announced that next January 2020 will be the end of life. And that what that means is no security patches, no bug fixes, no support available from Microsoft. While that might not seem really important, the fact is when an operating system goes to this level of no support, that means it is no longer HIPAA compliant to use that operating system. So the compliance risk is really key for healthcare practices. If you were to experience a HIPAA audit, having Windows 7 PC in use would be an automatic fail and subject to fines. So it's really not something that we can ignore. In truth, there are important security reasons to make this change. What happens is, as of next January, will be much more, anybody using Windows 7 will be much more open to hackers and new vulnerabilities, and I anticipate that hackers are eagerly awaiting that time. So what happens today, there continue to be every week security updates to Windows 7. You might think, well, it's been around a long time. Seriously, they still need to be making updates. But the fact is there are regular updates. And why does this happen? Because attackers continue, they uncover problems, and those problems are addressed and fixed. Today, you have attackers and you have defenders. Next January, your main defender retires. There will continue to be vulnerabilities exposed, but they will no longer be fixed. And you just have to ask the question, why do they continue issuing security patches after so long? And the answer is there are still issues that arise. And so strong recommendation to anybody in healthcare. If you weren't in healthcare, I might not feel so strongly, but HIPAA compliance is just really important for all of us who serve patients. So what is the truth about Windows 10? Is it a fantastic step forward, or is it a terrible operating system that was never any good? Truth is more that it's a fantastic step forward in all honesty. So is it more secure? Yes, it is much more secure. Even Google is recommending that folks replace Windows 7 with Windows 10. One of the very first things that happened when Windows 10, then it was Windows 8, was in its planning stages, is it was announced there was going to be a total restructure of the boot up process because Windows 7 has an unfixable process that allows other software, antivirus software and other software that might not be so kind, to get in ahead of the Windows boot up process. And what that results in is once you have been hacked, you might never be able to find that hack because there's software that runs first is not the good guy software. So security clearly is better. And is it reliable? Yes, it's very reliable. Windows 10, much like Windows 7, very reliable, no issue there. It's reported to have faster boot time. Is that true? Yes, it is. It does boot faster. Is it faster in operation? Yes, it is. It's hard to discern, possibly. Are the graphics cleaner? That's a matter of opinion. They're somewhat different. But when Windows 10 is set up, what I'm going to say appropriately, it is a non-issue for anybody who's been using Windows 7. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, what did they do to my PC? Windows 10 can operate in a very straightforward way. So we'll look at some setup choices that will help that be true. But the fact is, Windows 10 is a solid operating system. It's here for the long term. And recommendation, get on board and plan for the upgrade. Is Windows 10 a problem in that it takes hours to set up? No, it can be avoided. Does it take weeks to learn? No, it can be avoided. This is where some of these setup recommendations will be helpful. When Windows 10 or Windows 8 and then 10 were first released, there was a lot of valid conversation about, oh my gosh, this is really, really different. How am I going to get used to this? But anymore, it's just not the case. And it is a fast and efficient operating system. So what are our choices? Do we have the ability to continue to use Windows 7 after next January 20th? Yes, it will not stop working. It simply will be more vulnerable and it won't be HIPAA compliant. So option one, continue to use Windows 7, not recommended in a healthcare setting. The main two options, purchase new PCs or upgrade PCs, and both are legitimate choices. For most PCs that are older than 6-7 years old, we strongly recommend purchasing a new PC. Putting old wine in new wineskins just is not the most effective way to spend money. This is an opinion. So cost of a new PC, you can spend less, but we strongly recommend when you purchase a new PC, purchase it with an SSD that's a solid state hard drive that has no moving parts, no spinning hard drive, no moving read-write arm over the hard drive, and it's much faster. Any PC or laptop, if you've used one with an SSD drive, you'll know that the speed improvement is immediate. So you'll put a more expensive hard drive in it and at least 8 gigabytes RAM and you're good to go. $799 is a reasonable price for a new PC with an i5 processor and 8 gig of RAM and a solid state hard drive. And you'll have some labor involved in conversion. So the cost of a new PC will be in this kind of range. An upgrade, you'll likely spend $300 to $400. You'll spend, call it $200 on the license for Windows 10, and then another couple $100 on replacing your RAM with 8 gigabytes. And this is the presumption is you don't have that much RAM in the existing PC. If you have 8 gigabytes, then leave your RAM alone, and you'll put some labor cost into upgrading the PC. So you have choices. You can purchase new, you can upgrade existing. And just a comment about this, upgrading PCs, there's a new choice on the horizon, and that is Microsoft 365. Most folks have heard of Office 365. Today I'm going to introduce, or it's actually not very new, but for most of us, I'm going to introduce Microsoft 365. It's a way to license Windows 10 on a subscription basis. So what are the costs? And I'm going to just spend a minute talking about Microsoft licensing. If you opt to purchase a new PC, you're likely going to come across the question, what am I going to do about Microsoft Office on the new PC? For some years now, Microsoft Office has been licensed to the PC, not to the user. So if you've purchased a copy of Office, that will not translate and carry to the new PC. For most people, the right choice is Office 365. That's a subscription product where you pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to use Microsoft Office. Office is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, a couple other apps. And so you have this choice of subscription, but generally it's the right choice. And the main reason I believe it's the right choice for most of us is an important feature that's an option, but it's really important with Office 365, and that's called advanced threat protection. So the reason for discussing this is if you're thinking about new PCs, you should be thinking about how you're going to license Office with the PCs. And I'm not trying to sell Microsoft licensing. I'm saying that there's a real value in this advanced threat protection. The main value, you spend $2 a month, but the main value is this. If any of our employees click inadvertently on a quote bad link or open an attachment that they shouldn't have opened, if you have this in place, instead of ransomware or a virus or something really bad that otherwise would happen, what happens is Microsoft sends the click through a filter on the internet to a place called safe links. They quote explode whatever bad thing is going to happen in a sandbox on the internet. And if something bad occurs, instead of ransomware, the user who just clicked on the wrong thing gets a simple message back in their email that says, oops, that was a bad link. That's it. A message instead of damage. Anybody who's had a ransomware attack or a serious virus would gladly turn back the clock if they could and spend $2 a month per email address to protect against this. So it makes sense security-wise to license this product. This advanced threat protection is not available with purchased Office. So long-winded explanation to say, Exchange Online and Microsoft Office, that combines together to be Microsoft Business Premium. You add advanced threat protection, you're going to spend $14.50 a month for Office 365. Microsoft 365 combines those things plus a license for Windows 10. So you can license Windows 10 on a subscription basis, and if you include the advanced threat protection, you can spend $22 a month instead of $14.50. So what am I saying? I'm saying, and where is this applicable? It's applicable if you're going to upgrade a PC. If you're going to buy a new PC, I would just do this $14.50. If you're going to upgrade a PC, you might consider adding another $5.50 a month, and that licenses Windows 10 Professional instead of spending $199 on the license fee. So I know this can be confusing. I hope I'm not being confusing. I just wanted to clarify that if you choose to purchase new PCs, we recommend Office 365. If you're going to upgrade a PC, you might consider Microsoft 365. I'm going to do a short demonstration of Microsoft's advanced threat protection. What is this $2 a month feature that I'm talking about? What happens is if I'm using this, and at PBSI we went from purchased Office to all subscription Office 365, but we did it to get this one single feature. What happens is if an email is clicked, that email, once you have this ATP, is sent to a detonation chamber or a sandbox on the internet. It's exploded, and if it's safe, it just continues on. If it's not safe, the user gets a message. I'm going to demonstrate this with my own email. So I have a subfolder for security, and I keep a couple of emails here to demonstrate this. So the one I'm going to demonstrate first is a bad link. So this link was sent to me in an email by a security administrator, and he said, you can test Office advanced threat protection with this. So I'm going to click this link in my email. This is a bad link that would have delivered a virus to me. When I make that click instead, it's gone out to the website. You see this safe links, that's what Microsoft added in advance, and Microsoft sent me back a message that says, oops, that was malicious. This can be set to allow me to make a click to continue, but we do not set it that way for clients. There's simply no action. Okay, thank you for the message. I shouldn't have clicked that. And that's the end of the story. So that, instead of a virus or ransomware, is a really good result. One more example, this one is an attachment. So I actually had a client who called me several weeks ago now and said, I'm having a hard time opening a PDF file. Could you help me? And I listened to him and I said, forward that email to me. He did. Well, this is the attachment he was trying to open. It was, quote, from a former employee. It wasn't really from that former employee, but it purported to be. And this would have been something bad, but instead, Office 365 intervened. And because of advanced threat protection, that message was delivered and it was safe. So well worth $2 a month, and hope that is useful information. One more thing I'm going to do, talk about if you are fearful of moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10, what are some setup choices that can help make the transition smooth and avoid employee training and retraining. And the basic concept that we try to follow is we want to turn complex into simple. We want to make things easy to find. We want to boil down a bunch of choices to some key recommended choices that will influence the simplicity of setup. And we have some recommendations about browser setup. So I'm going to now use a document that will be an attachment available to all of you. We'll send this to you, Windows 10 setup recommendations. Regardless of whether you use PBSI for any services, you'll each get a copy of this. And it goes through some setup principles. There's a settings app in Windows 10. And the settings app has a bunch of different choices. What we've covered here are the ones that we think are really key, where we're going to make things secure, clean, fast, as opposed to game-related, and consistent and supportable. So some of the setup recommendations are personal choice related, but they all have a business basis behind them. So visual efficiency, the most important place with Windows 10 is the Start menu. The Start menu is this button in the lower left-hand corner. My Start menu, I have some consistency. So all these boxes are the same size, and all these boxes are the same size. When you first load Windows 10, it's a confusing mass of different sized boxes, and you see this kind of thing going on. If you notice on this place on my screen, that image is changing. That's because of a feature that comes set up out of the box that I recommend turning off. I'm going to options here and turning live tile off. That's the way I have all mine set. I only turned live tile on for that one weather app so that you could see what it's like if you have flashing and moving boxes on all kinds of places on your screen. That tends to be distracting. So we start by saying Start menu, personalize it. You want to turn full screen off, and then which results in your Start menu having a portion of your screen. In Windows 8, one of the main complaints was when you pushed that Start button, it filled your whole screen. And it was like, I don't even know where my PC is anymore. So turn live tile off so you don't waste processor cycles on displaying things that you really don't care about. And then unpin and organize your Start menu. When your Start menu is organized well, then the apps that you use commonly are right here with one click. So that's one set of recommendations. Taskbar, this is another thing. Taskbar is the bar at the bottom of your screen. So you notice I have some things in my taskbar. If something is running, then it will show up in my taskbar, but there are also icons here. I use OneNote a lot. I don't even put it on my menu. I put it on my taskbar, so I can get to my OneNote by clicking a single icon down here. So if you set your taskbar with your most common apps, then you save time when you're executing programs that you use all the time. So this describes how to add apps to the taskbar, how to set the taskbar so that it's set up efficiently, and it's simply some recommendations to avoid time-wasting clicks. So another set of recommendations relate to File Explorer. File Explorer is this icon that allows us to look at our hard drive or hard drives on our network. And I customize my File Explorer so that I have direct links to the things I get to frequently, our price book or our crystal reporting folder or the documents where we store customer information. So the reason that I do that is because I do this all the time. Throughout the day, I'm looking up files all the time. And we have this recommendation that you set your File Explorer to be in detail view, that have certain columns. It just leads to efficiency. And we find that without some of this instruction, employees just never set it this way. I know I used to, before we had standard settings at PBSI, I used to go to an employee's desk and watch them do things and think, oh my gosh, you're wasting so much time. Well, those time wasting things can be eliminated by setup. So File Explorer setup includes quick access setup. In Windows 7, File Explorer had something called favorites. Now favorites are gone and replaced by quick access. It's really the same thing, and there's some instructions how to turn quick access into the kinds of one-click choices that you were able to do under favorites. So we set up our menu, we set up our taskbar, our File Explorer. Personalization, a couple of important things here. Set your lock screen so that there's a timeout where your screen can turn off and your screensaver can come on. That's in a HIPAA environment. It's important that we automatically have our screen blank out at times and require a password to resume. That's one security thing that in healthcare is really important, but don't set your PC to power off. So power settings you want to leave on all the time. Contrary to what many of us have been told over the years, your power stays on, and that permits things that happen at night to happen when you're not there. Things like vulnerability scans and virus scans and software updates. So set your screensaver and set your monitor to turn off, but otherwise set your power to stay on. So these are some of the personalization things we cover in these setup recommendations. So another privacy recommendation, this is the only one I'll really go and demonstrate. I'm going to go to this settings app and I'll go to privacy. These first two settings that come up, the default from Microsoft is that these are on. Let apps use your advertising ID to make ads more interesting. Let websites provide locally relevant information. Well, you know what's going on when you say yes, and that is the default, is that your information is being distributed with your permission. So some privacy settings, we simply recommend that you turn some of those things off. Make sure your Windows is set to update and all your apps are set to update automatically. Make sure you have antivirus installed. Microsoft's default Windows Defender is not an appropriate and secure antivirus product. You need something separate in additional, make sure that's been set up. And then setting browsers, as you might expect, since Microsoft is not the author of Google and Google search, your default when you get your PC is to use Microsoft's browser and Microsoft's search engine. So a couple of simple settings will change that. Most of us prefer Google as the default search engine, and it doesn't come out of the box that way. So knowing that you can have somebody spend 15 minutes to make these settings on your PC and have them really work smoothly, it's really well worth either employing some expertise, somebody like PBSI or somebody who really has thought about how do we set this to work consistently and quickly, or use these setup recommendations and do it yourself. So we're almost finished with content. I want to just summarize and say, Windows 7 change is coming. What are you going to do? Hire a professional like PBSI to do these for you? Totally up to you. You can avoid frustration. You can avoid some productivity loss. You can make it a simple thing, and there's some reasons to do this. If you want to do it yourself, there's a Windows 10 upgrade checker that will check for apps that are not compatible. There is a link which will provide as to how to manually check, make sure your files are backed up, and how to back up and restore your files, and then tips for different operating systems if you're coming from Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows XP. Use available resources. So our goal in providing this information is to, one, have everybody consider this in advance. Plan ahead is the number one thing. We're only 6 months away at this point from next January when Windows 7 will go away. PBSI in our client base at one time had 780 some PCs running Windows 7. Now that number's been dwindling as we've been helping clients focus on this issue for a bit. But what you can know for sure is that if you wait until November and December to make this change, that there may be some scheduling issues associated with getting good expertise available to help you. So plan ahead, and it's also a budgeting issue. If there's a summary recommendation other than simply replace your PCs that have Windows 7 instead of upgrade them, I would say if you have a PC that has 4 gigabytes or more, consider upgrading it. That means basically that it was purchased recently enough that it might have the horsepower to run Windows 10 fine. If you have a PC with 2 gigabytes or less, replace it. So that's a very rough recommendation. There are some people who would say if the PC has 8 gigabytes or more, consider upgrading it. But everybody has budget constraints. If you have more than a few PCs, consider phasing the transition in over time. Do a few in the summer and a few in the fall. Budgeting and operational distraction both will be positively impacted. The goal, planning, will minimize problems and maximize productivity. So I want to thank you for your attendance. We're finished with content, and I want to thank our partners at the Academy once again for sponsoring this educational information. Hope this has been valuable. And of course, we offer services in various areas. You're welcome to contact us, but our main goal has been education. Thank you for your attention. Reach out anytime with questions. Everybody has a good day.